For many individuals, they feel like they should be at a different place in their careers. They're actually very successful, yet they have such high expectations for themselves. There are some individuals that I coach who made VP level, and yet they are unbelievably dissatisfied with themselves. They have a beautiful family, they have a beautiful house, they drive a nice car, and yet they feel like they are still left wanting. They still feel like they are not successful, which is very, very strange. Hello everyone, welcome to the Now What podcast, episode 25. Well, believe it or not, I know I've been bragging that it's been 70 degrees in Cincinnati. It's 30 degrees today and there's snow on the ground. So welcome to Ohio, I guess. Let's get right into it though. We have a question from Justin in Vermont. Justin's talking about a health decision. So read between the lines, right? His health is being affected. The stress and pressure that he's going through right now is affecting more than just his business life. It's affecting his home life as well. So he's going through an extended period of stress, which we will address in just a few minutes. It's affecting him in both areas, professionally and personally. He needs to decide. He needs to make a tough life decision here to leave a dysfunctional organization. The problem for him is that he loves the people he works with. Specifically, he loves his team and he does not want to leave his team. And that's a tough one. I think we've all been there before. I think this is one of the reasons why people struggle so much with leaving their job. So let's go ahead and begin. Let's start off with the results cone. You know I love this particular concept here. And if you notice, I put a question next to the results cone, just kind of a different way to spin things. For Justin, I'm going to really just ask you this question, and I want you to really take this seriously, Justin. And the question is, of course, is it worth it? Is it worth your health? Is it worth what you're going through right now in order to stay with a particular job? And I need you to think differently, Justin. Again, you and I have had many conversations in regards to just life coaching and just life in general. And this is one that you really have to ask yourself, regardless of whether or not you like the people that you work with. You know, your job isn't everything, but you have to make the decision for yourself. But I want you to think about what you've been going through, right? Now, obviously, I can speak to a lot of the personal issues that you go through, Justin. No one knows your last name, but I know you are going through a lot of health issues. And I want you kind of to think this way as we progress through this particular exercise, because we're going to get into stress management and really thinking about stress. Because what I don't want for you, Justin, is I don't want you to just leave a job just to go to another job and experience the same things. That would just be handling a symptom and not handling the root cause. So I'm a huge fan of James Peterson and his stress management questionnaire. Him and I have had a pretty cool relationship over the years. And I always suggest this particular questionnaire whenever I have individuals who are going through some stress or if they want to teach stress. So the stress management questionnaire, this is award-winning stuff. There's 11 stressors in here. Not only does it give you a really cool way to gauge your stress level, but one of the things that James does is he also has a companion form for your companion to fill out a stress management questionnaire on your behalf. And you can compare what your companion thinks your stress level is versus your stress level. So it's a great way to look at things, but there's 11 stressors. I highlighted one on the screen here next to the SMQ called the disappointment scale. And obviously I could have picked any of the 11, Justin, but I know you, and there's two specific ones that I picked for this episode for you to really think about. So the first one here is the disappointment scale. Right? So disappointment scale is disappointment in others, right? And that is an interesting one because there are so many individuals that have such high expectations for people and they don't realize that their expectations are unrealistic. Let me give you an example. So imagine you are the first week on a job. Can you guys remember your first week at the organization that you're at right now? My question to my class is always how was it? How was the first week? What was it like? And if you were honest and you really thought things through, it was probably a dumpster fire. It was probably a hot mess. It was probably drinking from a fire hose, correct? Because you're new. And this is not picking on your organization, but most organizations, this is what it was like. I think most people who really do not score well in this area forget what it was like to be a newbie. Forget what it was like to be in a position where you are brand new and it's a new skill set. Right? But Justin, one of the things I want you to think about is whether or not your expectations for others are way too high. Right? I know I struggle in this area as well, and I teach this stuff where I have a certain standard that I want to meet, and if people don't meet that standard, then I get very disappointed. I even get stressed out. And I have to remember that, that's my expectation, not theirs. Another example that's kind of a fun example is for those of you that have kids. Do you guys remember when you were 16 years old? Think back. Imagine the think back music. Think back. When you were 16, did you have it all together? No, I was an idiot, just like the rest of us were when we were 16 years old. However, don't we get on our kids an awful lot? Don't we get really, really harsh with them on things that we ourselves did back then? All right, so that's one of the things I want you to think about, Justin, is whether or not your expectations for others is really, really out of whack. The next one that you see on the screen here is the underachievement scale. All right, and this is a little bit different from the disappointment scale because this is disappointment in yourself. Right, so this is very similar, but for many individuals, they feel like they should be at a different place in their careers. And it's interesting, this scale, because for some of the individuals that I work with, they're actually very successful, yet they have such high expectations for themselves that they don't even realize that this is a self-inflicted source of stress. So here's an example, right? So I played baseball at a pretty high level growing up through the ranks. I got to travel all over the country. I got to go to some pretty cool baseball tournaments. I have some lifelong friends that I have met, right? I got to drink beer, chase girls, and have a good time in my early 20s, right? The question I ask classes all the time is, I wasn't good enough to make the Major League Baseball level. Am I a failure? And that's an interesting question, right? Am I a failure? And most of my classes are like, no, you're not a failure. And someone inevitably in the class will say things like, well, it depends on what your expectations were. If your expectations was to make the major leagues, then yeah, I guess you were a failure. But that's an unrealistic measure. That's an unrealistic expectation. You know how good you have to be to make the major leagues? But I had fun. And like, can I just enjoy that? Can I just enjoy the fact that I had fun? Right? And it's the same thing for your career. Like, there are some individuals that I coach who made VP level, and yet they are unbelievably dissatisfied with themselves. They have a beautiful family, they have a beautiful house, they drive a nice car, and yet they feel like they are still left wanting. They still feel like they are not successful, which is very, very strange. And Justin, I want you to think about these two stressor scales and just how important they are to really improve upon. I would strongly suggest that you take this stress management questionnaire. You can definitely get in touch with James Peterson. He's all over the internet, but this is something that I think will help you. The reason why I love this assessment is because it's award-winning, not for the assessment itself, for the information in the latter part of the assessment. For each of these scales, it talks about what they are, how to improve them. I mean, it's an amazing resource for you for moving forward. And wherever you land, whatever decision you make, Justin, it's an amazing resource for the team that you oversee, right? Because I know you manage and you manage well, but I want you to really think about some of these expectations that you have, right? And some of these stressor scales. It's going to follow you to your next job, so you better take care of it now. Get to the root cause. And whichever scale is the one that is really tough for you, or maybe there might be a surprise, attack it, okay? And really get better at it. With stress, sometimes it takes a coach, sometimes it's getting with a mentor, sometimes it is getting with a mental health professional. And Justin, you have to make that decision for yourself. And for those of you watching, you have to make that decision for yourselves as well. So I hope this helps you, Justin. We can obviously go into it for a pretty long period of time. Obviously, for this podcast, I think a lot of these type of topics we cover, but it also is covered in my new book, really how to deal with stress and how to handle that with your teams. All right, it's a great way, especially if you have a new manager, an aspiring manager, to get them on a level playing field with their peers. If you're new to the podcast, this is really about Johnny. Johnny is an amazing mechanic in the airline industry, and because he's such a great mechanic, they made him manager of mechanics. Now what? And as it relates to stress, this is something that a lot of managers struggle with. Johnny has never had to deal with this before. He hasn't had to deal with this in others. And it's really tough to deal with that kind of thing, especially if you don't know how to handle it with other people. It takes a light touch, but also takes a little patience. It definitely takes some experience. So I encourage you guys to pick up the book. You can find it on Amazon. It's available ebook or paperback, and coming soon, Audible. All right, so for our next episode, I did a podcast episode with Justin Colby, the Entrepreneur DNA. The topic is going to be management skills training and increasing efficiency on your team. So we look forward to that. We'll probably be breaking it up into 2 separate episodes because there is so much information that Justin and I went through. So I hope to see you in the next episode. I wish you all the luck in the world in your management and leadership journey, and I will see you in episode 26.